just one small thing to tackle actually before we move on to filters together. We are handling for a successful response from the server, and I had said that it's always best practice to also handle for a failure. So in this case, we're going to use the error setting. And we're not going to focus much on this, but we actually do need to be able to do something when the server is not returning our correct response. If it were ever down or some type of error had happened, we would want to know about it. And similar to the success, we actually have a callback here. So we're going to have another function, and we have access to the response in this case as well. The response, though, is not going to be our actual data. It's going to be an error. And so we have this error. And now that we have access to it, one thing we could just do that would be simple is to just console.log the error. And that would at least give us a little insight as to what's happening. Instead of just nothing being rendered, we could find an error in our console that would tell us why. So just best practice when you're handling for a successful case is to also always handle for a case of failure. And one tiny thing I forgot as well. An apartment.bedrooms here, this is returning a numeric value. And from our description in our header, it's a little unclear that we're talking about bedrooms. So let's just go ahead and add something descriptive like BR to show that we're talking about actual bedrooms. Okay, so now that we've got those little details down, we can move on to filtering. So first things first, we can go back to something that we know and love, which is our click event. Because we know when one of our filters is clicked, that's when we want to execute some code to take action. So returning to our index.html, all right, we can quickly see that every one of these filters listed here has a class of filter. So that would be a great selector to start with. And then we'll use our this scope to target the specific filter that was selected. And another thing to note is that these actually all have an ID that relates to the borough. So whatever the description is here in the text also matches the ID that we have access to here. So do you want to hear my thought about how we'll actually perform this filtering? Well, the way I think we can handle something like this is by working with the ID of the selected filter and using that to find the apartments that are also within that same borough. So as you notice here, we don't actually have the city or borough in this case listed anywhere. So one thing that we could actually do is make that city or borough a class on the listing itself. So then when we select the filter with the ID of the borough, we can have it actually filter out only the listings that have a class that equals the same ID. Are you with me? Let's just go ahead and start implementing this because that'll be the easiest place to start. So we know first off that we actually want to work with our click event. So going down here, we can actually use our jQuery selector and we can work with that filter class. And we're going to work on the click event here. And then our function's going to actually do that logic we just talked about, which is grabbing the ID of the filter and comparing it to the classes of the apartment listings that we have.